WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Reality Check. And it's your daily dose of public affairs here on the home of Black Talk Media. It's WURD. Locally in Philadelphia proper, we are 96.1 FM, 900 AM. And throughout the nation and throughout the world, we are live streamed at wordradio.com, also viewed on WURD TV. You can listen to us on your WURD app as well. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your creator, executive producer, host of Reality Check. And we air at you live Monday through Thursday from Washington, D.C., and sometimes Philly, too. We cover it all, covering politics and public policy, national, local, state. Definitely want to give everyone just a warm extension of gratitude for listening in to and being tuned in to our panel discussions that we did in conjunction with the Council of State Governments over the past couple of days. We had the first one on critical race theory, and then we had the one yesterday on reparations. So some very productive sessions, and I can tell you that there were quite a few influential folks from state capitals who were tuned in to those discussions as they were joining in for the Council of State Governments annual meeting, which is taking place now. It's still taking place this week, so definitely appreciate that. For more on them, for the Eastern Regional Conference, csg-erc.org. Joining me at the top of this morning, particularly as we're watching developments unfold on Capitol Hill, of course, everyone's talking about Afghanistan, but people are also talking about issues like infrastructure. As you know, last week, infrastructure packages passing out of the Senate. There's big debate going on in the House. We do expect to have about $4.7 trillion worth of combined investments, appropriations, and infrastructure, from physical infrastructure to things called human infrastructure, as the social safety net, or as the Biden administration attempts to remake or overhaul the social safety net. Here to talk about their perspective on infrastructure, particularly from the perspective of black businesses, is Ron Busby. He is the president and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce. For more information, you can go to usblackchambers.org to learn more about what they do. Ron Busby joins us now by Skype. You can watch him on WURD TV. Ron, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having us this morning.
All right, excellent, excellent. No, we appreciate that. So, first, if you could, just for the audience, talk about the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce. What is it exactly? What do you all do?
Great question. Good morning again. Ron Busby, President and CEO of the U.S. Black Chamber. We began in 2009 here in Washington, D.C. We're based upon 5 what we call key pillars. The first one, as you've been discussing this morning, really is around policy and advocacy, making sure that policy that is being created is beneficial for Black-owned businesses. And so this morning, when we talk about the codification of the Minority Business Development Agency, that had a lot to do with the effort and work that the U.S. Black Chamber has been doing for the last 12 years. Our second one is really around access to capital. And many small business owners say access to capital is the primary concern, but for Black business owners, this is the number 1, number 2, and number 3 concern. And we saw so many Black-owned businesses suffer through the pandemic over the last 18 months, or almost 24 months at this point. And many of our businesses, 41% of them, went out of business because of the lack of being able to get the funding that they needed. If you ask any business owner their top concern, they will say access to capital. But when you talk to a Black business owner, it would be their top 3. Our number 3 concern is really around contracting. And as you discussed the infrastructure bill, there will be trillions of dollars being spent. It is the U.S. Black Chamber's primary concern to make sure that Black businesses owners get their fair share of those contract opportunities. And so we look at contracting from 3 different vantage points. Where is the federal government spending its money, and how can we make sure that we have businesses that are participating? Where is corporate America spending its money? And we know that last year we heard $6.6 billion commitment from corporate America talking about It's give back, philanthropic, as well as contract participation with Black businesses. But as of yet, we've only seen 250 million of those dollars hit the streets. And then the third leg of that contracting is, where are Black people spending our money? You hear a great deal of conversation about Black consumers having $1 trillion of spend power, but usually that's not Black people having that conversation. That's usually corporate America saying, hey, Black consumers have $1 trillion. How can we market to them to get their share of it? And we are here to say we got to change that conversation. We have $1 trillion. How can we keep that in our communities to collectively have infrastructure and long-term sustainability for Black businesses and communities? And then our last one is really around chamber development. We began in 2009 with 6 Black chambers. Today we have 150 Black chambers located in 42 states, plus Toronto, Canada, and 6 countries in Africa, with a membership base of over 385,000 Black-owned businesses.
You were talking about how so many Black businesses were in a state of distress, were lost during pandemic. Can you give us some more details, more specifics on that? Like, how many do we have a grasp? You guys, the chamber, have a grasp on how many Black businesses were lost, or even trying to revive themselves, as we're still in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, last year, between the months of February 2020 and April 2020, we lost, in fact, 441,000 Black-owned businesses across the country, which represented 41% of those businesses. Early on, we were going to the federal government when the COVID first hit, and we're saying, hey, we're going to lose 40%. And no one really was interested in that conversation. And then when the New York Federal Reserve came out and actually said, guess what, U.S. Black Chamber, you were actually wrong. You lost 41% of those businesses. Then it got everyone's attention. Part of the challenge, though, man, really was the solutions that corporate America, as well as federal governments, create many times don't hit the mark. If you looked at when COVID first happened, it was really a trifecta impact for Black communities and Black businesses. First, it was the virus itself, and so many African Americans, Black people, were forced to go to work, calling us essential workers without really the proper education, proper training, proper protective gear. The second leg of that was the stimulus package, or the lack thereof. 78% of Black businesses either got no funding or far less than what they needed. And when it was created, it was called a payroll protection plan. Of the 2.6 million Black businesses that we own and operate across the country, 2.5 million have no employees. So when you had a program that was there created to take care of the employees versus the employers, it left out the majority of Black-owned firms. And so the majority of our firms did not have the opportunity to take advantage of the largest stimulus package that this country has seen. And then the third leg of that trifecta was really the murder of George Floyd. And so many of our businesses across the country have suffered because of the pandemic. And what we're trying to say is we need to create programs and policies that are intentional about the support. It's great to have the President of the United States go to Tulsa, Oklahoma and say, hey, we're going to increase our spend from 5% to 15%. Right. But if there is no way to be able to track that and find Black-owned businesses, when the federal government, as well as corporate America, says, yes, Ron, we'd love to do more business with Black business, but usually their answer is we either can't find them or they don't have the size and the scale. So we're here to take away all those.
I'm real curious because, the federal government does have, I think this is in the Department of Commerce, right, the Minority Business Development Agency. And so to me, right?
You said the word minority. We're not minorities.
Right.
We're not minorities.
No, I get you. Right.
Yeah,
right.
Minorities are white women. Minorities are Asians and Hispanics and people with left hands and people with red eyes. Yeah. We're not a minority group. Minority says small, different.
Yeah.
We're unique. We have different challenges and different needs than other communities.
True.
And when programs are created under auspices of diversity and inclusion, and in minority, it's white women that have benefited the most from those programs. And we're saying, in this particular environment, You've
Yeah.
got to be intentional and specific. And so there has
So
been
like what you're thinking is, instead of having like NBDA do something, you understand what I'm saying? Like theoretically, okay, this will be a centralized process. It goes through one agency that you all can go to get that kind of support, get the transparency, the support, and also get the dollars eventually. But instead of something that's minority, and I definitely hear what you're saying, it irritates me too. But instead of that, something that's more specific, that's designed for black businesses, that's like a federal government arm, like we had back in Reconstruction, right? You had the Freedmen's Bureau. So it's like, okay, well, we acknowledge that black businesses are the most distressed out of all the demographics, the business owning demographics in the U.S. Why can't we just? I mean, that's kind of where you're headed, or where you? I guess I'm sure that you've had that conversation with federal policymakers or with folks in the administration.
Yeah. So I am very pleased that Minority Business Development Agency, better known as NBDA, is being codified, because it is the only agency that even has the word minority in it.
Right.
So we've got to make sure.
As white population declines, so I don't know what that's going to look like 10 years from now, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now that we hopefully can stand up that agency, increase their budgets, we now have to be able to go in and say, okay, we have minority programs. Let's be more specific within that agency and say, at least track and have some accountability for various minority groups. Mm-hmm. So you can at least say and track when the president says we want to increase spend from 5% to 15%, that we can say these are black firms. Right now, if I'm an Asian-owned firm, I can be certified as an Asian firm. If I'm a woman firm, I can be certified as a woman-owned firm. If I am a gay or lesbian-owned firm, I can be certified as gay and lesbian. But if I'm black or Hispanic, I'm certified as minority. Until this year, well, the U.S. Black Chamber has created its own certification program that will allow both federal governments and private sector, as well as black consumers and consumers across the country, to be able to determine if a business is in fact black owned and to be able to support them.
Yeah. Ron, talk to us about, because we're talking a lot about the federal government, but then the role of state and local governments, right? And the sort of relationship that you have, or your organization has, with the thousands. I mean, there are hundreds of black state legislators. And I would think that black businesses, an organization like U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce, that collaboration should be tight between your organization, between black businesses and black state legislators. There's like 700 of them nationwide. Many of them are in leadership positions in their state capitals. They know where that money is. Thousands of black local elected officials. Talk to us about those dynamics and about, are they being, aggressive and intentional enough in making sure that, because a lot of those, there's been, billions to now trillions of dollars going to the states and the municipalities. I would think that this would be priority number one for black elected officials, to make sure that those dollars that they're getting are being funneled into black businesses, and also into operations like yours to support black businesses.
You're so true. We have great relationships with the National Mayors Association. We have great relationships with the National Black Mayors Association, as well as congressional black caucuses, local black caucuses around the country. And where we have local chambers, we try to make sure that those local black chambers have relationships with the local black elected officials in their communities, states, and regions. It is extremely important for there to be dialogue. We say that we're the voice of black business here in Washington, D.C., but there are local conversations that need and will be continuing to happen across the country. As this money leaves Washington, D.C. and starts to hit the grounds across the country, it's going to be important, because once it hits your local community, they need to know who you are prior to the dollars getting there. There are going to be trillions of dollars of capital being spent on contracts. And what we're telling the federal government is, we know the 40 communities that were hit the hardest because of COVID. We know that the majority of those communities have black elected officials and black populations. And so we can pinpoint where those dollars should be going. It is now our responsibility and the local community to say, okay, We're going to make sure that local businesses, particularly Black-owned businesses, get contract opportunities from this infrastructure. And then we hold those Black companies responsible and accountable to hire Black and local employees so that we don't have this spiraling effect of COVID, of this going on for months and years afterwards. We've got to be more intentional on how we roll out the dollars, and more importantly, how we make sure that our businesses are participating.
That's a big concern of mine, talking about close to $4.7 trillion combined. And I'm just worried about, and here's where I ask you about, what's that combined transparency advocacy game look like from an organization, an influential organization like yours, just really pressing Black grass tops, which are the policymakers, state, local, and federal, and Black grassroots, community organizations, civic organizations, folks on the residential level, to really track these dollars, right? I mean, so is there like kind of a more specific plan, especially as you're dealing with the challenges of trying to access state, local, and federal contracting and procurement dollars?
So what the U.S. Black Chamber did several years ago was create what we call our Black Print. It is our policy agenda set here in Washington, D.C., but each local Black chamber has their own Black print written off of what the national agenda is. So locally, they have a very similar mission of how to roll out, how to work with local elected officials based upon policy that is being created here in Washington, D.C. that can be implemented and directed locally, both from city as well as county and then state.
The other thing too, talk about those, if you will, I got you for another minute, those obstacles, because you talk about how it's really hard for Black businesses. Black businesses want capital, and one of the things that always fascinates me, but also troubles me, is how Black businesses are in a different kind of environment, in a different kind of reality, but we're still trying to apply, sort of these traditional, conventional capital acquisition models to Black businesses. Just go to the bank and you can just apply for a loan. Well, it's not that simple. We got to deal with issues like credit. So, talk about those obstacles, if you will, while we got a couple more minutes, to Black businesses as they're trying to access capital, and how we can kind of overhaul the conventional capital, the financial sector, banking sector, to meet the real needs and reality of Black businesses.
Great questions, and I'll try to keep it point. First off, so often we do hear, we'll just go to the bank and get a loan. We also heard, which is truly false, last year, that corporate America, federal government, was saying, well, the reason that many Black-owned businesses went out of business because they aren't financially literate. That is the biggest falsehood. Black business owners have more graduate degrees, postgraduate degrees than any other business ethnic group in this country. So that's false. Secondly, I could own my home. I could have a great business plan. I could have good credit. I could be a college graduate. I could have a white neighbor with the same business plan, renting his home, a high school graduate. We could go to the bank with the same business plan, same credit score, asking for the same $100,000. I'm going to walk away with $40,000. He or she's going to walk away with $100,000. We as a community will leave and say, thank you, Jesus, I got this $40,000. Let me go and do what I have to do with it, because we've been able to do that as a community. That is a bad model. Most businesses go out of business because they did not have enough money on the front end to have any type of challenges. But there's also a myth that we hear in our community that, well, the average Black family only has $300 of savings, and so any emergency, we're going to be in a detriment. The average white family only has $400 for an emergency. So a lot of the things that we hear that we think are our issues are really American issues. I will say this. Many of us applied for the payroll protection plan and got denied, 78%. But the majority of us should have been really looking at the EIDL program. But when it had the word loan at the end of it, it turned the majority of Black businesses away, because we've had a negative relationship with the bank. We know that there was credit that was involved. We didn't know how long the loan was going to be. We didn't know how long the virus is going to be around. So we didn't really want to sign up for a loan for something that we didn't really have control over. But the rules of the game were that if you applied for the EIDL loan, the first $10,000 you were able to keep. The second part of that was it was a very low interest rate loan that you could have up to 30 years. You could apply for a $250,000 loan and literally pay nothing for it for the first year and a half. There's still $250 million sitting in the EIDL loan program that no one has ever applied for.
Wow.
And understand this, ladies and gentlemen, the EIDL loan had nothing to do with the virus. The EIDL loan has been around for years. It is an emergency loan for floods and hurricanes and tornadoes and fires. And so it is a program that is set aside, and we should take advantage of it. And it is not through a bank. It's through the SBA. You can apply with a credit score as low as 575, and still get up to $250,000. So it is a great program. There are programs out there, but I do want people to understand the last piece of this: go to a black-owned bank. Let me say it again.
So,
Black
hey, Ron,
banks make 70% of their loans to black homeowners and black businesses. Look into our own community before we go elsewhere. Sorry.
Hey, you know what, Ron, I wanted to see too. I don't know what your time's like. I have to go to break, but I don't know if you have a few more moments after break to stick with us. How you doing?
Yeah, I got a few more minutes. Yeah.
Got a few more minutes. Let me take a quick break. We're talking with Ron Busby. He's the president and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Ron Busby.
Hey, WURD family, did you hear? It's official. The Colorectal Cancer Alliance just announced the new age for colon cancer screenings has been officially lowered to age 45 for everyone. If you are 45 or older, it's time to get screened. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner to register for your free at-home screening test. Did you know colon cancer is largely preventable with on-time screening? And there's a 90% survival rate when caught early. African Americans are 20% more likely to get colon cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. So for the next 3 months, you can go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. A screening navigator will contact you to ask a few questions and help you get screened. It's that simple. Again, just go to WURDradio.com, click on the Go to Know banner, and fill out the form to request your free at-home screening test. Go to Know today. Berger Montague is a Philadelphia-based plaintiffs' class action law firm committed to helping Philadelphia's black community. Berger Montague maintains a strong commitment to fostering diversity and equity throughout the legal community and in society in general. In 2020, Berger Montague filed a pro bono case against the IRS when they refused to send COVID-19 stimulus checks to federal benefits recipients with dependent children. Thanks to Berger Montague, people across the United States were able to obtain dependent benefit checks that they desperately needed. Berger Montague supports WURD Radio and Philadelphia's black community. For more information about Berger Montague Law Firm, please call 215-875-3033 or email at info@bm.net.
This year for Founders Day, WURD Radio will acknowledge 5 members of the community who represent the ideals, mission, and character of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD. The 2021 WURD Founders Day Community Impact Award recipients are Mazi Kasher and Steve Pickens of Philly Truce, Veronica Hill Milbourne of Spectrum Health Services, Lanish Miller-White, Carlo Campbell, and Walter DeShields of Theater in the X, Pastor Alan E. Waller of Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, and WURD's own Kawesa Mathis. Join us on Founders Day, Thursday, August 26th, when we honor the awardees during the Walter P. Lomax Jr. MD street naming ceremony at 11 a.m. WURD Radio is proud to support and acknowledge those who work tirelessly to uplift our community. Congratulations to all of the 2021 WURD Founders Day Community Impact Award recipients.
With Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Now 10:27, and the temperature is 82 degrees, at least in Philadelphia proper. This time, and temperature check is sponsored by SEPTA, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transit Authority. From safe to seamless, convenient to contactless, and local to express, SEPTA is the Philly way to go. Plan your trip at iSEPTA Philly SEPTA.com, as I did growing up. Nothing but SEPTA growing up. So definitely check out iseptaphilly.com. We're just extending our conversation with Ron Busby. He's the president and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce. Go to usblackchambers.org for more information. And obviously, the Philadelphia area, the tri-state area, has its African American or Black Chamber of Commerce as well. So, which is a part of that continuum, that consortium of Black chambers all across the United States. So we kept Ron Busby is gracious enough to give us a little bit more of his time. Talk about that too, Ron. You were talking about before we went to break about Black banks, because whereas we should be relying more on Black banks theoretically, that's the way it should work. We were very self-reliant during segregation times. Just those stories from my family growing up down south, and it was like, that's what we did. We pulled resources together. Not so much now, and Black banks seem to be disappearing though. So like, how can we even rely on Black banks if they're disappearing, especially since the Wall Street reform, the Frank Dodd package, right? That there was some provisions in there which actually became an existential threat to Black banks.
I will give you a great story, a couple of great stories. Most of us remember what was happening down in Southern Virginia when the tiki torches and the Jews will not replace us, and the removal of statues, historical statues for, I would say, the Ku Klux Klan. That same day that unrest was happening in Virginia, we lost the only Black-owned bank in Virginia. Many of you may remember the Penny Bank. The Black woman had that many Black Americans financed homes and going off to college and their first cars, as well as insurances. Many times we lose focus on things that are important. We got caught up on what white folk were doing and trying to take away statues, but really weren't concentrating on things of our future as well as our past, and so we lost that bank. At one time in our history, we had close to 200 Black-owned banks across the country. Today, we have less than 19 Black-owned banks, and collectively, we may have $2 billion of assets. But there's another story. A few years ago, the U.S. Black Chamber partnered with the Black banks across the country and really had a lot of Black Americans starting to now reinvest in Black banks. We had people leaving from Columbus, Ohio, driving to Chicago to make investments, open up bank accounts in our traditional Black-owned banks, Seaway Bank there, and Seaway went out of business. Understand this, banks don't make money when we make deposits. Banks make money when we make loans, when we finance our homes and we finance our cars and we create interest-bearing accounts. That's how banks make money. Banks have to pay out money when we open up a savings account. So we've got to be instrumental in our thinking about how and what we do to save our historical institutions, and Black banks are part of that. And I think it's very important. We have here in Washington, D.C., Industrial Bank, which is a family bank that has had tremendous success over the years, and they're still growing. But we as a people have to make sure that we're doing more of our parts to make sure that we have long-term financial institutions.
Real quick, I want to ask you, Ron, about Black farmers, because there is a viewer who is asking that question about the case over Black farmers. And, we just saw this term, socially disadvantaged farmers, wasn't neutral enough to prevent this federal judge from blocking. It was about $5 billion in aid that was supposed to go to Black farmers. There's language that you used to describe the NBDA, which we were talking about earlier, and many of your other objectives. That language is kind of similar. So, and you're expecting legal challenges to the NDBA. So what makes your case different than Black farmers? How does the Black farmers issue kind of intersect and affect yours?
That's a great question. When we began in 2009, that was one of the first fights that we took up, was on behalf of the Black farmers. And that was during the Obama administration. And even Obama was apologetic for what ended up happening. As the average Black farmer, even after all the terms and conditions were created, they only received up to $60,000 maximum. And if there was any type of error, a wrong check in the wrong box, and it was very complicated to fill out the applications, they did not just not get the $60,000, but they weren't able to go back in and reapply, correct any changes. And so many black farmers were really hurt twice-fold from the initial over the years, not getting the funding that they need, now to having to apply for minimal amount of money, and then third, being rejected because of technical challenges. And so we learned from that case. We're still fighting that case. But for our situation, for black-owned businesses across the country, we're taking what we learned from there, we're implementing it here. And on this case, this isn't just a black issue. This is a minority issue for MBDA. And so we learned to bring more people to the table, to be included in the fight, so that it would not be considered, hey, this is black business owners or this is a black issue. America is still a country of immigrants, still a country of minorities. And when you can get more people involved in your fight, you have a better chance at winning. But we're not going to let the black farmers off without our fight, without our support. So you will continue to see us advocate on behalf of black farmers.
Yeah, it's good. That's an issue we have been tracking. We've been talking directly with the black farmers, and also some of those partnering 1890 university institutions, right? Like a lot of black farmers, they train at, they get schooled at, learn agriculture science, and I know it's a big. I do want to ask, speaking of black farmers and issues around agriculture, and then we get into climate crisis, and black populations are on the front line of all these climate disasters, and then just wondering, like, the future of black. We're talking about infrastructure, but one thing I noticed when, especially, you know, Congressional Black Caucus, they don't want to talk about climate change. Most of them, they'll talk about infrastructure though, but we have to talk about climate change, climate crisis. And so I'm wondering if you see that as an opportunity for, like, this, you know, the burgeoning sectors in clean energy, sustainability, waste management. I mean, does that become like a big door that opens for, and then we have to think about food security. Farming is going to be real huge. So, I mean, it's just, it is the conversation among black businesses and black people interested in going to business for themselves. Do you feel like it's shifting and thinking more about, okay, well, how we can benefit from this global adaptation to climate crisis?
I think what you're finding is a new generation of business owner that is looking more nationally in scope of the challenges that we face as a country as well as a community. Many of our traditional black elected officials are coming from inner city communities, and so they have a different concern as it relates to climate, as it relates to rural communities. But I think as we get together collectively across the country and we talk about issues for black people, you'll start to see that climate is a concern of all Americans, particularly black Americans, because still so many of us still live in the South. And as we start to see things like hurricanes and floods and the weather having the outtakes of affecting our communities and, more importantly, our businesses, I think you'll start to see all Americans, particularly black Americans, start to say, hey, we've got to look at this from a different lens and a different vantage point.
Because, you know, I want to make sure, because this is like, you know, billions of dollars being invested in growing the clean energy sector. You know, people are realizing that's lucrative. I don't want us to be left behind while that's happening, right? You know, or in waste management, or in other sustainability businesses. And I don't want to see us left behind in that. One other question, I got so many questions for you, Ron, but I got one more for you before I let you go. And I really do appreciate this. Just talking about, because you all focus on this too, why it's so important for you to also have a diaspora focus. Why you should be, why we black businesses need to participate in transnational trade with, you know, our folks on the African continent and also in other parts of the diaspora like the Caribbean as well. Talk about that.
You know, when this administration came into power, we said, you know, black people have had this conversation about reparations for years. But we as a community have always been a little bit shy because we didn't know what the price tag was going to be. We didn't know how big a fight was going to be. But yet we saw a pandemic come into play. And within literally days, if not weeks, we saw America commit to spending $349 billion without asking any questions. We saw 50 white publicly traded firms step up and say, yep, without asking, hey, did you have to lay off anybody? Did you lose revenue? Did you lose customers? Were you impacted? None of those were asked. And 250 billion of those dollars, were awarded out. We then said, hey, Black America, we're now competing for the small piece of this last with every other business in America.
The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning for the following Pennsylvania counties: Montgomery and Philadelphia. Effective until 12:07 p.m., the National Weather Service in Mount Holly has extended the flood warning for small stream in south central Montgomery County, in southeastern Pennsylvania, west central Philadelphia County, in southeastern Pennsylvania, until 11:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 10:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the Wissahickon Creek at Wissahickon is currently in minor flood. For Wissahickon Creek at Wissahickon, at 10 a.m. the stage was 5.04 feet. Flood stage is 5 feet. This includes the following streams and drainages: Schuylkill and Lower Delaware. Precautionary/preparedness actions: turnaround, Dante Drown when encountering flooded roads. Most flood deaths occur in vehicles.
To be able to do business with Black people around the world.
We've been talking with Ron Busby. He's the president and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated. I do apologize. I think I might have added another word or two to that. Just a bit of a Freudian slip. U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated. Go to usblackchambers.org for U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated to find out more, especially if you're a Black business owner. You might want to look into what they're doing and sign up. Definitely looking forward to continuing this conversation, Ron. Appreciate your extra time. So, and I know you guys have an annual convention that's coming up very shortly. So, very soon in the next couple of months, maybe we'll see you there in Washington, D.C. So, in the meantime, please be safe. Thanks so much for your work.
Thank you. Let me just leave with one thing. If you're a Black-owned business and you want to be found by both corporate America, federal government, and other Black consumers, onboard your firm. Get certified at byblack.us, byblack.us. Certification. We want to support you. We want to make sure that you're understanding where the opportunities are, and you can find us there. Lastly, we've heard a great deal about making America great again. Black people want America to be great again as well. But in order for there to be a great America, there must be a great Black America. And in order for there to be a great Black America, we got to have great Black businesses. And in order to have great Black businesses, we need great shows like this that allow us to have conversations about Black business, about the Black economy, and how we can support each other. Make sure that we have sustainability. So thank you for having us on this morning, and we look forward to continuing to do work with you, through you, and for your audience.
I appreciate that, Ron. Thanks so much. byblack.us for more information on that. usblackchambers.org. Okay, Ron, take care. Thanks again for your time. All right, be safe. Okay, let's take a break here on Reality Check. We'll just open up the phone lines for a few minutes. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open after we come back from this quick break.
Hello, Philadelphia. Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch, and you can contact your local agent for personalized assistance.
But having a trusted insurer could make you question some not-so-trustworthy people, like the friend who says he doesn't want pizza, but when it comes, sure, he'll have a slice.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance, and you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might make you so happy you start to skip everywhere, which could get you nicknamed the Skipper. And do you want that as a nickname? Think on it.
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver. And they offer discounts to military and federal employees.
But when your life gets a little easier, it makes you too carefree and you end up going barefoot everywhere, which is all fun and games until you step on a bee.
Well, Geico is the second largest car insurer in the country and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery. Right here on WURD Radio.
Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North, West, and South Philly. I'm Tiffany Bacon. I'll broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Our next and final stop is West Oak Lane at the West Oak Lane Senior Center, 7210 Ogons Avenue. Win concert tickets, meet special guests, and stand with WURD. Be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Come show your support and join or renew your WURD membership on site. That's the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour at the West Oak Lane Senior Center from 10 a.m. until 12 noon on Friday, August 20th. WURD, showing love this summer.
The WURD Radio Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Comcast and supported by Pico, Keystone First, and Ready Set Philly. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. I want to thank Quaza Mathis. She was standing in just very shortly for Troy Wilmore behind the scenes on the board of steel. Because you folks were calling in. Thank you so much, Quaza. Thank you. And Troy Wilmore is now back at it. He's on the board of steel. So he's in studio and ready to take your phone calls at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Good conversation with Ron Busby, President CEO of U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated. So definitely need to continue to talk more about Black businesses. 41% of Black businesses evaporated during pandemic. Probably some out there that we don't know of. That's the official count, but there are probably some out there that we don't know of that lost during pandemic. Others out there more still struggling. And so, we still don't have a full grasp of it, particularly since a lot of those dollars that were provided, emergency dollars that were provided during pandemic, did not find their way to Black businesses for a variety of reasons, many of them which Ron Busby went into. So definitely looking forward to continuing that conversation with him and others about the state of Black business and the state of Black economic development, especially in a very difficult, rough time like this. So it's something that we do need to keep track of. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Yes, thank you. usblackchambers.org/certification, which Ron Busby was talking about. If you're a Black-owned business, you can get certification with the U.S. Black Chambers Incorporated, kind of help your cause out and help you also give you the network you need to try to access many more of these dollars that are coming down the pike that are going into communities. Once we get that infrastructure package to the House, that's all going to be important. usblackchambers.org/certification or byblack.us, another great spot to go to as well. Rise and shine, Kasu Sarah, thank you. Good to see you. Good to have you tuning in to our Thursday edition of Reality Check. Felicia Dina Price Okonkwo, I think I pronounced it correctly, Felicia. I hope I did. Good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Raphael Suleiman, good morning. Klepto Guns, good morning. Michelle Tulak Neal, good morning to you. All right. Thank you, Zakia Larry, for tuning in. I think she was with U.S. Black Chambers, so appreciate you, Zakia, for making that possible. Joey Dixon, peace, one love, and jazz back at you. Shirley J. Carter, good morning. How are you doing? And thanks for that question, Kasu Sarah, about Black farmers. Definitely was one of those things I was thinking about too. So you and I were on the same page in that instant. So yeah, I appreciate that as well. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, don't forget, next Thursday, join us next Thursday, August 26th, for our annual Founders Day celebration honoring the life and legacy of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD. This year will feature a special live broadcast. Starting to come out a little bit, as we're managing pandemic as best we can, but we'll have a special live broadcast next Thursday, August 26th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., at a street naming ceremony for Dr. Lomax. That's happening at 1800 Warden Street, the site of his first medical center. So there's a lot of history made there. The day will also include a series of virtual panels and conversations exploring health, wealth, also environment and independent media. There's a special Founders Day membership discount that we're offering on that day. Join or you can do, actually it's starting now up until that Founders Day. So you can join or renew today for just $80, and then you can help continue Dr. Lomax's legacy by supporting progressive Black Talk Media. And you can help support your cause, your mission, and your legacy too. For more information, go to wordradio.com and click on the Founders Day banner. There's a Founders Day banner on our website. We look forward to seeing you Thursday, August 26th. I'll be there as well. So I'll be during reality check hours hosting and helping manage that and having conversations with a number of folks and watching that street naming ceremony. So definitely quite honored to be there for this very special Founders Day. But I will be masked. I should be masked. So as I'm circulating around folks, and so I'll expect to see you masked up as well, and keeping it like totally masked up, not below your nose, like everything just masked up. And I hope people are vaccinated too when they're coming outside. So please do get vaccinated. You know how I feel about that. So I just want to keep everyone safe and healthy, and we want to end this pandemic so we can do more of these kinds of live events unfettered and without any issues and problems and any dangers lurking all over the place. 215-634-8065, 8663-610900. I will go to Woody out of Winfield for a reality check. Woody, what's up? How you doing, sir?
Yeah, Charles, great again, great program. One of the things I appreciate is I watch you learn as you do your interviews, and that's a great thing, to be able to pick up this kind of information. You're in a great situation where you're able to do that, and I know you record most of your stuff, and you can go over it, and this way we'll be able to run you for mayor or possibly president one day. We don't know. But that's what I see.
I'm good. Thank you, though. I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm good. Thank you.
but what I had to say, I had to think about segregated times. I interviewed the Tuskegee Airmen, and boy, what an interview that was, and how much I learned out of that interview is unbelievable. But the issue of segregated times, we had a chance to teach ourselves and educate ourselves, and that's why we did so well in that period of time. Now, when we had integration come in, then of course discrimination started its job on us, and that's how we would discriminate out of education, in the inner cities around the country. Now, the gentleman, Mr. Busby, who was just speaking, and he was talking about black banks. We had black banks. I remember 19th and South Street. My grandfather had his business, the Ideal Cleaners and Dyers, on 1831 South Street. The bank was on the corner of 19th and South Street. So I remember even the firehouse where you couldn't have whites with the blacks. So you had a black firehouse. The whites weren't allowed to sleep overnight with the blacks. Why, I don't understand that, but, segregated times again. My point is this. I asked a question, in segregation, do you think we were doing better? I asked Roscoe Draper, was one of the people I was interviewing, and he says, I have to say we were, because the people cared about whether we got an education or not. And I remember a teacher saying to me, I'll never forget that, I used to give them an apple every day, Barrett Junior High School. They've now since changed the name because of gentrification. I do know that that teacher said, well, he wanted to see me after school. And he says, Robert, I want to see you after school. He says, you give me an apple every day. I don't like apples. And then he says, as a matter of fact, here's your apples back. So he gave me the apples back. But the point was, he said, one other question, Robert, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I stood up and said, a TWA airplane pilot. And me and him in the room just by ourselves. He says, guess what? This is the first white teacher I ever had. He says, you'll never be that in this school. So Barrett Junior High School, right up the street from where they're going to do the doctor's street, they changed the name of that school, and Dr. Martin Luther King spoke there. What do you think, Charles, that we could do to get the name of that school back, since it's such a historical place? And I was so glad that Dr. King spoke there, because that is the first thing to let me know just how bad a shape we were really in, and that needs to be registered. and historically registered. So we need to get that name back. So I'm going to be calling you now and then to see what you think about getting that name back to where it was.
I have to give it some thought, right? Yeah. I mean, that's something where, community folks and parents, even students have to come together and call for something like that, and obviously put pressure on the school board and the school district to do that. But you're right. I mean, the whole purpose of it is not just the
wiping
name.
it out, Charles. Gentrification, they're not in the neighborhood. They're throwing them out. And this whole thing with the gun violence is all a form of gentrification as well.
It is.
They're doing all kinds of things to get you out of the neighborhoods around this country. They are moving you out so that the inner cities will be people with money, not people without money. And that's why they do it with real estate taxes. They do it with
out on
gun
the
violence.
out on the periphery, on the edges, poor and destitute and distressed, right? So the cities are like forts. And so, but that doesn't, I mean, in the end, ultimately, I've had these conversations too. Like, I'm working on this climate resilience agenda collaborative with Drexel University. I'm one of the co-leads for one of the working groups. And, there was a conversation about, hey, are these working groups, are they diverse enough? Because a lot of white people, a lot of white researchers, academics, et cetera. And two, are they really, truly, I mean, and that's why I'm there, to make sure that the conversation on equity and race and racism, it's centered. It's not just on the periphery or a footnote. Like, it's going to be, if we're going to talk about climate crisis, it's going to be, we're going to center, this conversation on race. But, that conversation is coming. And I keep telling them, like, the more you all, I know you feel like these are uncomfortable conversations and like, oh, here we go, we got to talk about equity and race again. No, these are essential conversations because it works out to your benefit too. Like, it's going to be disastrous for you too. You think you're avoiding the questions, you're avoiding the problem by just pushing us out of the cities and then having us out on the edge. But we've seen instances like, I mean, one prime example of that was about a decade ago in Paris. All the black folks they don't live in Paris anymore. It's too expensive to live. They live out on the suburbs, and so it's all poor, impoverished suburbs. And they lit up. This was about a decade ago. Some huge, massive social unrest and rioting and fires, because they were like, they were pissed, they were upset, being pushed out of the city. And then, so I mean, we're going to, similar situations have already popped up or going to pop up, but folks are thinking that they can just kind of create these fortresses, these financial and residential fortresses, and be, just have all those folks, non-white folks, out on the periphery, so they don't have to worry about them anymore. No, this is going to end up being a disaster that blows up in your face as well. So we have to continue having that conversation. Let me go to Cliff out of Connecticut, who's calling in for a reality check. Cliff, what's up?
Charles, thanks for taking my call. I'll be brief. I remember Woody, like about 2-3 years ago, he brought the same story with the apple, and I'm saying, why you got a black kid always bringing an apple to a white teacher? Give it to the black teacher. You know what I mean? Show some respect, man, and some initiative, to the black teachers, man. But,
Well, I mean, probably at that time there wasn't, his main advisor or teacher at that time was the white teacher, and so that's why.
Okay, well, but I got it. But what I'm saying is that it pretty much set the foundation for Woody, because when he says that we're all human, you know what I mean? Black people are not racist. We're the whole critical issue, the critical race theory, the whole issue of racism, that's what we're dealing with. And black people in America are not racist, and we're not doing these horrific things to white people.
No, we're not. You're right. I agree with you on that. It's a structured, systemic thing.
That we as a people don't do this. In what type of people do that? Look at the history. Do I got to go into details in terms of what white people have done to blacks just because? You know what I mean?
Right. So, I would say, we do have a problem with, I think only overall, what is it, just 8% of the overall teacher workforce is black. So we do have a problem. We do need to get more black teachers in the classroom. So.
Right, but to his point, though, he raises a good point, segregation. Let's have our own. And this was the Honorable Minister Louis the Third kind of saying, divide this country up, give us our own, let us have our own resources, even with the black farmers. Now, you want to talk about a case of racism and discrimination. These are up and upstanding true Americans, and what's being done to them from this government and from these people, man, you want to talk about racism, blatant racism? So for anybody, including Tim Scott from South Carolina, to say that America's not racist, man, you got to be ludicrous. And then for any black to say that America's not racist, this is ridiculous. I don't understand. And they got black folks. These are the black folks that the white people love. I'm done. Thanks for taking my call, man.
All right, Cliff, Connecticut, thanks for your thoughts. Appreciate it, as always. Let's go to break, and then when we come back, more Reality Check here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In Pennsylvania, it's now illegal to sell tobacco products, including cigarettes, cigars, chewing tobacco, vapes, or electronic cigarettes to anyone under 21. Stores can get fined up to $1,000 for selling tobacco to someone who is underage. Know the law. Check IDs. Post your retailer license. Make sure only employees have access to tobacco products, and only sell tobacco products to customers aged 21 and older. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
A Night of Passion makes a married doctor question his assumptions about love, lust, and monogamy. In The Marriage Pass, a tale of domestic suspense from Brianna Cole, smart, sexy, and filled with drama. The Marriage Pass explores the boundaries of a relationship by taking the what if of a free pass. One partner's consequence-free night with their greatest temptation to a new level. Pick up your copy of The Marriage Pass by Brianna Cole today, everywhere where books are sold. And for more information, visit BriannaCole.com. That's BriannaCole.com.
Oak Street Health, Strawberry Mansion, is hosting a Seniors Day Carnival at 2301 North 29th Street, Philadelphia, PA, 19132 on Saturday, August 21st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Enjoy music, games, food, and prizes as we celebrate our teams and the reopening of our Centers for Community Activities and Events. Oak Street Health is a network of primary care doctors for adults on Medicare, and we welcome all community members to join in on the fun and check out our center. Food and prizes limited to $15 per person.
Stand with WURD Radio, the only black-owned talk radio station in Pennsylvania. Did you know you can join the 4WURD movement and amplify voices of the black community as a digital member for as low as $5 per month? Visit membership at WURDradio.com or call 215-425-7875. We need you. Show your support. Start or renew your 4WURD membership today. WURD Founders Day. Don't miss our annual Founders Day live broadcast and celebration, Thursday, August 26th, honoring the life and legacy of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD, featuring a very special broadcast of a ceremonial street naming for Dr. Lomax from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. at 1800 Wharton Street, the site of his first medical center. Hosted by Charles Ellison. The day will also include a series of virtual panels and conversations exploring health, wealth, and independent media. Start or renew your 4WURD membership on Founders Day at the special discounted rate of just $80. For more information about WURD Founders Day, visit WURDradio.com. WURD Radio Founders Day is brought to you by Pico, Keystone First, Bank of America, Ready Set Philly, Comcast, Brown's Family ShopRite, Temple University, and Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson, 2nd District. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio, independent black media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
WURD, Progressive Black Talk Media. Welcome back to Reality Check. We're live on 96.1 FM, 900 AM in Philadelphia proper. But beyond the greater Philly area, throughout the nation, throughout the world, we are live streaming at WURDradio.com. Also, you can watch us on WURD TV, Facebook.com/4WURD, or YouTube.com/onWURD. And you can listen to us on the WURD app as well. You can take that wherever you go around the world. Just download your WURD app. You can listen to us that way as well. Joining us now is Dr. Alex Desolme. He is the chairman of the National Haitian American Elected Officials Network. He's also a councilman in the city of North Miami, Florida, which I've been a long time ago. So, Councilman, good to have you on. I hope all is well with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here this morning. And again, thank you for having me on to talk about important issues, especially affecting my homeland, Haiti.
I know, and it's a really desperate, just horrific situation unfolding in Haiti. Last we checked, over 2,000 known fatalities, thousands more injured, many missing. I'm not sure if you have family there. I really, our prayers go out to you and your family and your compatriots, your folks there in Haiti. So what's that situation like right now so far from what you're gathering, from what you're saying?
I was born in Haiti, but I was raised in New York. Thankfully I do not have, the part that affect was the south part, and my family are from, the northern part, and I do not have many families left in Haiti, but of course friends and, like you say, folks that we represent are back home. And what's going on right now in the world, as we can see, Afghanistan, Cuba, and all over, it's really, when you think about what's happening, you wake up every day, it's like, whoa. But Haiti is like, I was talking to someone, I'm 42 now, and it's like ever since a little boy, it's like we never catch a break. And especially it's us, what's going on now, it's what's going on a couple of years ago. It's just gotten worse. And a couple days ago, I woke up, I thought I was in a dream when I saw text messages and I saw the pictures. And I'm like, I thought it was fake, the fake news type of thing, the same images from 2010 that was forwarding to me. And then when I start, there's a group that we have, as you stated earlier, as the chairperson of the National Haitian American Elected Official, which is a group comprised of all of the Haitian American elected in this country, of over 80 some odd individuals of current, and over almost 200, including the former. And when I looked into the WhatsApp group that we have, it was like, it was true. And this was early Saturday morning of another, I think this was the strongest earthquake that occurred, that even felt, our brothers and sisters in Jamaica felt it, in other islands across the Caribbean felt it. So this is really, the situation is not good.
Wow, yeah, it's very powerful, 7.2 magnitude earthquake. That's when you go beyond 5, it's going to be like buildings will be flattened. It's just when I saw that number, I'm like, wow, it's we just still don't know. We can't grasp how horrific, how devastating that situation is down there. And then, you're already dealing with COVID. You're dealing with government upheaval, the assassination of the previous Haitian president, gang violence. Now the earthquake. It's like, when does it stop in Haiti, right? I mean, I know that thought comes up. I've talked to many, wife being from the Caribbean, a lot of folks from Haiti or in the Haitian diaspora. And just, I keep hearing that conversation constantly come up where they're just like, wow, it's just my homeland. It just feels so cursed.
And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like you're in a dream that ever since I was a little boy, you never get a break. And you say, is this something that's going to continue? It's one event after another. And you mentioned something with the, after a 5.0, we had a 7.0 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now this is a 7.2, the strongest in the world. And of course, we know that global warming has a lot to contribute to that. But the building code in Haiti is not strong, is not, as strong as it is here. The government is very unstabilized, and they really don't have a government in terms of that. It's an interim government. It's the prime minister that's running the government. A couple of weeks, the president was assassinated, which shocked the world and shocked the Haitian community, just like everyone else. So it's like events after events, and we were still trying to recuperate 10 years ago from the earthquake that occurred there, from the earthquake, and then Hurricane Matthew in between, and all of the other that, and the tropical storm. So it's not good.
It's not good at all. Your organization, National Haitian American Elected Officials Network, which I'm familiar with, NHAEON.org, by the way, for folks who want to visit. National Haitian American Elected Officials Network is at NHAEON.org for more information on them, and also to find out how you can contribute to Haitian relief efforts as well. But real quick, Councilman, describe that organization, if you would. You're the chairman of it. There are Haitian American elected officials all over, especially concentrated in a state like Florida. But talk about that organization, how it came into being, the work that you all do.
Yes, brother. We started 12 years ago when right after the election of the first black president, Barack Obama, in 2008, in 2009, again, there was an issue. Something occurred in Haiti, and I was elected at that time as a city clerk in the city of North Miami. So I got a call from a very good friend of mine I had just met a couple years prior, who was elected the first Haitian American in Massachusetts, who said that we need to convene. There was something, again, that was happening in Haiti. I can't quite recall what it was. And we were thankful the fact that we had somebody, you know, we had worked and we got a brother who, you know, who looked like us, you know, that was in the White House. So we felt like this is a time that we needed to do what we do to get together. So that's the foundation, how NEON came together. We didn't know how many Haitian Americans that were at that time. We quickly convened whatever the issue was, but it was something like we stated earlier, something always going on in Haiti.
Right.
And we started as the clerk. They quickly appointed me as the secretary of the group, and I started doing the research in terms of what states that had the Haitian Americans, the populations, and of course the northern eastern states like Florida, New York, and all of these states, of course, came up. But we knew there was 5 states, as we mentioned. We met in D.C. in a couple months after we started having the conversation, and we had a good brother. Obama had Patrick Gaspard, who was a son of a Haitian immigrant in the White House as a senior advisor. So we called him, Patrick Gaspard, and we quickly met. And we had a lot of support from Senator John Kerry from Massachusetts. So different folks at that time, and I remember I had the responsibility of reaching out to my congressional person, Kendrick Meek was the person at that time, and folks reach out to their congressional folks, and we were a small group of folks determined to kind of change the relationship that was happening between the U.S. and Haiti, because there's a lot of stuff. The U.S. really controlled the narrative, what goes on in the island. And we felt that whatever the number of Haitian Americans that were together, we needed to come together as a people to meet on what was happening in our homeland.
How many total members altogether? Because you all have a lot of members. Local elected officials.
Absolutely.
Council folks. How many members total? And in multiple states. Like I didn't know you have members in states like Colorado, for example.
Yes.
You have a mayor pro tem there.
In that brief little history, we didn't know it was only 5 states, but today we have 16 states. And you mentioning as of 2 months ago, we find out one of our members in Oregon. We have a Haitian American. Yeah, we have a Haitian American in Oregon, Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. We have a member. We have in Arizona. We have members. So if you go on neon.org and aeon.org, and you can see all the current and then the former members as part of our organization. So we are in 16 states, and including the District of Columbia. Our 2 highest elected officials, of course, is the Attorney General of Illinois, of course, Kwame Raoul, who replaced the first black president, Obama as a senator there, and then he's now the Attorney General there, and then also in D.C., the Attorney General there of D.C. So those are the 2.
Carl Racine,
Carl Racine, of course.
Yeah, we've had him on here before too, talking about some other issues. Talk about, going back to Haiti, and there's thousands of people out in the streets in southern Haiti primarily. You got the storm coming. Why should people in the United States go? So Haiti is about almost 700 miles from Miami. It's very close. Yeah. And so it's like, I guess there's that challenge of trying to, especially with all eyes focused on Afghanistan, right? Of trying to get the American people focused on Haiti. Why should Americans be concerned about the situation in Haiti? What's the Biden administration doing right now?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. The first part is, I think COVID kind of show us and show the world how all of us connected. What happens in Haiti, or what happens in China. Look what's going on now. One thing, what happened in one part of the world quickly could spread, but especially with Haiti, and not necessarily on the humanitarian, but just generally, Haiti, not only Haiti helped the United States gain its independence, where we are now in the fight in Savannah, Georgia, when you talk about the history of the U.S., but there's a lot that owes to Haiti, because if history, us when we were coming over as slaves, Haiti being the first Black republic country, and I think that's a lot to do with where we are now today, because when you think about it, we were all of the other islands, nations, somewhat is still under somewhat of either England or some other nation, and either they were or they broke out recently, and Haiti just wanted to be alone, and I think there's a price that we paid for that. But Frederick Douglass at one point made the assumption that all of us needed to go back as Black folks to Haiti, because the way of the treatment, because that's where Black folks were free. So when they were bringing us over, and those of us who they dropped in Haiti, as people of color, and we fought those folks in independence, and those that made the journey here in America, that continue into slavery. And I think a lot of that oppression kind of still stayed, that they were trying to do it themselves, have a lot to do with what's happening in terms of the policy. So what's happening with the Biden administration right now is we are, as Neon, we have always been, since we met with President Obama back then, the last administration, of course, we didn't have no relationship with. I'm not even going to say we had any relationship with. But this one, we did what we did. We are nonpartisan. We are a 501c3 organization. We do have all political affiliation in terms of membership, but the Haitian American community, by all everybody knows, is 99% affiliated with one party, and that has nothing to do with, it's just the way it is. So a lot of members did what they needed to do in terms of to make sure that we did get this administration. And there's some, we're not too happy in terms of what's going on, but we do know that they came in under COVID. We understand that it's a new administration. In fact, today we have a meeting with senior official from the administration with the White House in person. So
have they activated anything just yet? Because we've already gone a week of this, and I mean, it seems like they seem to be all focused on what's happening in Afghanistan. So have U.S. military assets been deployed? We're not getting a whole lot of news on that about U.S. military and emergency assets being deployed to Haiti.
And we not either. We have to ask in terms of doing that. And it's sad. And another part that's another sad, and I didn't want to but hey, since we put it out there, we got to do that. Another issue that was very, very kind of tipsy in our community, with all of that, what was going on, and we knew what was happening with our brothers and sisters in Cuba, and yet the president had decided to meet with them quickly. And a lot of people were like, well, wait a minute now, that's not real good. And we have said that to the White House, because I have had a conversation with them. I said, now listen, the narrative is not good, because the Haitian folks in these key states, that you need them. These are the folks that that are your base within this party, and we got to control this now, because everybody has problem, and treat us as Black folks, whatever issues, everybody should be treated equally, and we understand our brothers and sisters in Cuba has issues. We also do too. So the thing is not equal, but we are fighting, as we are a people who are very resilient, but we are demanding for way better treatment, and we're going to make sure that they hear that today. And we do have a meeting with them, and we are holding them accountable to make sure that they not only do right for Haiti, but all of us are American and we are elected officials here. You know, we just happen to be Haitian American. Some of our members never even been to Haiti, or you know, they born here. But you know, we just have to make sure that they do what they have to do for people here domestically, and also for people, you know, to the island, because he came down here when he was campaigning and made a promise that he'll make sure that you know, there's free and fair in whatever election that needs to be in Haiti. But he has appointed Samantha Power to oversee the relief efforts, and they have some folks there. USAID is doing some stuff, but we are getting information as second class, so we're not being treated in terms of partner.
Yeah.
We're getting from the news as well, so they need to step up.
They do need to step up. Yeah, we'll follow up on that too. No, that's thank you for telling that too, because we've had already a few administration officials on the past couple of weeks, so that's something I'm going to raise about it. I did not know that. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to respond quickly to the Cuban American community, because you're worried about the next presidential election, you need to respond to the Haitian community is pretty significant, and especially in a battleground state like Florida, so they need to step up on that. What can, you know, right now, listener, what would you advise listeners do, Chairman, if they want to help Haiti, if they want to contribute, they want to donate? I guess the first step they could do, you can go to a legit organization like yours, NHAEON, NHAEON.org, National Haitian American Elected Official Network. And I know you have some information there on donating to various relief efforts to help Haiti. But what would you advise right now? What can people do?
Charles, the first thing I think people could pray for what's going on around the world and for the people in Haiti. And aside from prayer, whatever that they think, they feel that they could do, their heart could do, I ask them to do it. You know, someone called me from my, you know, a resident called me and say, you know, Councilman, I have some, you know, I have $10, and it really touched my heart. And I wanted to do that, you know, and it was very, very touching. But you said something that was important, to go to an organization that they trust. We know what happened 10 years ago, and we know the result now. We have stepped up as the organization, the National Haitian American Elected Officials Network, because we felt like what happened 10 years, there's a lot of accountability that was not happening. So we are the steward, I would say the monitor, the auditor of what's going on. So there's a lot of things in the next few days. We ask people to follow us on our social media, neon.org, on Facebook, on Twitter. In fact, we've been a group of elected officials who have not been really paying attention to, you know, social media and all that. Then we figure out, oh my God, we got to get information out to people as an organization in terms of that. But being around for 12 years doing the work, we decided to step up, and we are collecting, and we have made a pledge. Not a single dime that we collect is going into administrative fees, whatever that you may call, in terms of, you know, for the organization NHAEON, because all of us are elected officials, and we want what's best for Haiti. But what we're not telling people not to give to their organization that they feel in trust, because you got to feel trust, but that's the pledge that we take. The other one is the transparency piece. We have made a pledge every day. We will post, and we will post the amount raised, the total raised, whatever the case is, because that's not the biggest piece of what we're doing, because we don't have organization in Haiti. We don't have, you know, any input in Haiti. However, we do have organization. We're going to vet every organization. We're going to vet, and then if we think we're credible, we're going to list them on our website. We're going to say how much we give them, and we're going to track them. And we're going to make sure that they're accountable for whatever that we raise, whatever that we give them. And we also going to be the monitor. The real monitor is really whatever that USAID and the UN and all these other organizations donate to Haiti, because the Haitian government, we need to watch them too. So they're going to be watched, and all of these yes sir, and all of these other organizations collecting, we're going to create a portal on neon.org in a couple of weeks. We're going to ask all of them, sir, to report themselves in what they raise and where they send it, and we're going to make sure we monitor that.
I'm hoping you could come back, Chairman, and also have your members back. I mean, it'd be really good to kind of have an ongoing conversation with you about the future of Haiti and how it, you know, post disaster, how it can really find its footing, right? You know, because we like you said, it seems like you can never catch a break, and it's like, well, how can we get Haiti to a point where it can't catch a break? I mean, it's a massive, it has a massive population. It's a massive part of that island is sharing that huge island Hispaniola with the Dominican Republic.